All right, so what I want to talk about today is a subject that I honestly can't believe I haven't touched on yet, and that's the concept of hybrid training. Now, what is hybrid training exactly? If you think about the spectrum of strength and conditioning in terms of a range from simple to complex, if something like CrossFit or grid is indexed to the far side of complexity, hybrid training is similar except indexed to the simple end. It's literally strength and conditioning. Now, I specifically would consider myself more of a tactical athlete, which is a type of hybrid training that is with the intent of being a more capable warfighter. So in some respects, it's not true hybrid training because there's a little bit of specificity there, like for instance, periodizing your ruck marching, running in kit, things like that. But it's basically the same scheme of maneuver. Like anything, hybrid training has pros and cons. The biggest pro out of everything is with hybrid training, you basically get per unit volume of workout the best combination of health, aesthetics, and GPP, general physical preparedness, out of pretty much anything else you could do. And that somewhat stands to reason because you're just fundamentally doing basic strength and conditioning. That sleep, nutrition, exercise checklist, you're basically completely filling in the exercise checkbox. I mean, just regularly doing a complete assortment of strength and conditioning, in terms of health, there's almost nothing better that you could do. You have cardiovascular conditioning, mitochondrial health, tissue retention, particularly as, somebody that's getting a little bit older. I mean, bone health. You pretty much do a little bit of everything, and it's great. In terms of your health as an organism, I couldn't recommend anything more. And then the other plus, which kind of dovetails into the negatives, is that you'll be pretty decent across the board at everything. Like on a 10-point scale, you'll probably be like, a 5 to 7 across the board. And then maybe those one or two things that you have a genetic proclivity for, like for instance, I index very strongly towards endurance. So like I might be like a 5 in strength and then like a 7 in athleticism and then like an 8 in endurance or whatever. But, as a hybrid or in my case, tactical athlete, maybe you average out at like a 6 or a 6.5, which, in the modern world where the average American is not even an athlete, that's pretty good. And your aesthetics and health markers will be representative of you being a little bit higher up on the fitness scale overall. But that dovetails into the cons, okay? There are two massive cons to hybrid training, all right? And I would be remiss if I didn't bring these up because obviously I am a hybrid athlete and I do very much think it's a good way to train, but there are two massive cons. The first one is lack of specialization. The first one is this. Even with awesome genetics and, dare I say it, pharmaceutical intervention, if you as a hybrid athlete are trying to compete or compare yourself against, the competitive equivalent of you, but in a single factor sport, you're gonna come up woefully inadequate. Like, let's say you do classical lifts for your strength portion, so like clean and jerk and snatch, you will never as a hybrid athlete be as good as a competitive weightlifter that's all they do. Or let's say you run marathons and also lift, you'll never be as good as a competitive marathon runner or triathlete. You just can't. Because, and that dovetails into the next biggest con, hybrid training is not the best thing for beginners because in order to make it work, you have to manage the massive amounts of training volume. Hybrid training, particularly if you're running and lifting heavy, will grind most people into the ground. In some cases, it can be almost as bad as trying to deadlift every day. When it comes to hybrid training, fatigue management is absolutely essential for sustainability. One of the best ways to do that is to adopt a periodization style model for your programming. What this essentially means is you arrange your programming into blocks where you may put a little bit more effort into one aspect of your training while you pull back on another one so that you can manage fatigue better. Like for instance, you might do a block where you're focusing on your running and you ease off on your lifting volume. Then you might do a block where you're working on your squat strength and you back off on your running. So for this reason, even though I'm a massive fan of hybrid training, I don't necessarily recommend it for beginners unless you have a coach to help you kind of arrange your training in such a way that it's easy for you to manage fatigue, or if you're just kind of very good at intuitively, holistically integrating your training into your day-to-day life. So that's just a brief overview of hybrid training. I plan on doing deeper dives into this topic into the future, specifically going into the ins and outs of tactical training. But that's it for now, folks. Thanks for watching.